As the moon cast an eerie glow over the empty hospital corridors, Nurse Emily embarked on her night shift. The air was heavy with an unsettling silence, broken only by the distant hum of machines. Emily's steps echoed as she made her rounds, checking on patients in their dimly lit rooms. One room, however, seemed different. The door creaked open as Emily approached, revealing an empty bed. Confused, she checked the records and found that no patient had been assigned to that room. Dismissing it as a clerical error, Emily moved on. As the night wore on, strange occurrences escalated. Faint whispers echoed through the halls, just beyond Emily's hearing range. Each time she turned to investigate, the voices fell silent. Growing uneasy, Emily quickened her pace, her heart racing. In the corner of her eye, Emily caught glimpses of dark figures darting between rooms. She felt an inexplicable dread, the feeling that she was being watched by unseen eyes. Trembling, she entered another empty room, only for the door to slam shut behind her. Panic consumed her as she struggled to force the door open. With a sudden gust of wind, the door swung open, and Emily stumbled back into the hallway. Gasping for breath, she felt a cold hand brush against her arm, sending shivers down her spine. Her flashlight flickered, casting unsettling shadows on the walls. Determined to uncover the truth, Emily delved into the hospital's history. She discovered that the room she had encountered was once used for experimental treatments that left patients in agonizing pain. Rumors circulated of spirits trapped in the hospital, seeking vengeance. As Emily continued her investigation, the whispers grew louder and more insistent. They seemed to taunt her, urging her to leave. But Emily couldn't abandon her quest for answers. She sought out the hospital's oldest employee, an elderly janitor who had seen it all. With a shaky voice, the janitor revealed that the hospital was built on an ancient burial ground, cursed by those whose resting place had been disturbed. He warned Emily that the spirits grew restless during the night, their anger and pain manifesting as malevolent entities. Armed with this knowledge, Emily devised a plan to appease the vengeful spirits. She gathered old medical equipment and arranged it in the haunted room. As she retreated to a safe distance, she recited an incantation, pleading for forgiveness and peace. The shadows seemed to waver, their whispers growing fainter. Emily held her breath, waiting for a sign. Slowly, the temperature in the room dropped, and an otherworldly light enveloped the space. The spirits had accepted her plea. The hospital's atmosphere gradually shifted, and the whispers ceased. Emily's night shifts became quieter, the air less suffocating. She had confronted the shadows and emerged victorious, bringing solace to the restless spirits. Amelia's fingers tapped nervously on the desk as she settled into the seat for another night shift at the small-town police station. The radio crackled with sporadic chatter from officers on patrol. The distant howl of wind added an eerie backdrop to the station's solitude. Amelia's heart skipped a beat when the phone suddenly rang. She answered, her voice steady despite the unease that gnawed at her. A hoarse whisper on the other end sent a chill down her spine. "He's coming for you," the voice rasped before the line went dead. Shaken but determined, Amelia checked the caller ID. The number was blocked. She tried to shake off her unease as she glanced at the surveillance monitors. Nothing seemed amiss, but a shadow seemed to flicker at the edge of the frame. As the night wore on, the phone rang again, This time the voice was colder, more sinister. "You can't escape him," it hissed before the call abruptly ended. Amelia's breath hitched, and her fingers trembled as she reached for the radio to request a patrol car to sweep the area. The crackling radio was met with silence. No response came from the officers in the field. Panic rising, Amelia stared at the monitors, her heart pounding. The shadow she had seen earlier had grown larger, more distinct. It seemed to move with purpose, slithering across the screen. Amelia's instincts screamed at her to leave, but she knew she couldn't abandon her post. She forced herself to remain seated, her eyes fixed on the monitors. Minutes stretched into hours, each second dragging by as the tension in the room became palpable. Just as hope was fading, the radio crackled to life. A frantic voice broke through, describing a figure in the darkness, a figure with piercing eyes that seemed to glow. Amelia's blood ran cold as she realized that the caller was describing the very same shadow she had seen on the monitors. As the night deepened, Amelia's surroundings grew more oppressive. The walls seemed to close in, and the air grew thick with an otherworldly chill. She knew that whatever was out there was coming for her. The phone rang again, but this time Amelia hesitated before answering. The voice on the other end was no longer a whisper. It was a guttural growl that reverberated through the receiver. "He's here," the voice snarled before the line went dead once more. With a trembling hand, Amelia reached for her flashlight and cautiously stepped into the hallway. The corridor was dimly lit, the shadows dancing as if they had a life of their own. Amelia's breath hitched when she saw a figure standing at the far end of the hallway. The figure's eyes glowed with an unnatural light, fixated on her. She shone her flashlight in its direction, revealing a distorted face that seemed both human and monstrous. Amelia's heart raced as she backed away, her footsteps echoing in the corridor. The figure advanced slowly, its steps deliberate and menacing. Desperation gave Amelia newfound strength as she turned and sprinted toward the station's exit. The frigid night air slapped her face as she burst through the door. She ran across the empty parking lot, the sound of her own breath and pounding heart drowning out all other noise. Behind her, the figure pursued relentlessly, its inhuman growls growing louder. Amelia's fingers fumbled for her keys as she reached her car. She jumped inside, the engine roaring to life. With a screech of tires, she peeled out of the parking lot and onto the dark, winding road. Glancing in the rear-view mirror, she saw nothing but the empty road behind her. But as she turned her gaze back to the road ahead, the figure stood illuminated in her headlights, its eyes burning with an unholy fire. The voice echoed in her mind. "You can't escape him." With a gut-wrenching realization, Amelia knew that the midnight caller had come for her. In the heart of the city, nestled within the shadows of towering buildings, stood the Grand Edgewood Theatre. Its history was steeped in mystery, and its reputation was known far and wide for performances that enthralled audiences. But there was a darker side to the theatre, one whispered about only in hushed tones. Lily, a talented violinist, had dreamt of playing at the Edgewood since she was a child. When she received an invitation to join the orchestra for a special performance, her excitement knew no bounds. The night of the performance arrived, and as Lily walked through the theatre's ornate doors, a shiver ran down her spine. The air was charged with an electric energy that she couldn't quite place. As the orchestra tuned their instruments backstage, Lily noticed a portrait hanging in the hallway. The man in the portrait, the theatre's founder, had a gaze that seemed to follow her every move. She tore her eyes away, dismissing the unease that gripped her. The performance began with a hauntingly beautiful melody, and Lily lost herself in the music. The notes seemed to come alive, weaving a tapestry of emotions that enraptured the audience. But as the piece reached its climax, Lily felt an odd sensation, as though someone else's fingers were guiding her bow. A jarring, discordant note escaped Livy's violin, and the conductor shot her a sharp glance. Mortified, she tried to regain her composure, but the strange sensation lingered. Throughout the performance, Lily's violin seemed to take on a life of its own, producing a melancholic melody that resonated with a palpable sorrow. After the final note faded, the audience erupted into applause, seemingly oblivious to the eerie undercurrent that had infused the music. Lily's fellow musicians congratulated her on her performance, but their smiles held a hint of unease. One whispered that the theatre was known to be cursed, its founder rumoured to have made a Faustian bargain for his talents. As the days passed, Lily found herself drawn back to the Edgewood Theatre. She couldn't shake the feeling that the haunting melody still lingered within its walls. One night, unable to resist the pull any longer, she sneaked into the theatre and made her way to the stage. With trembling hands, Lily began to play her violin. The notes she produced were unlike anything she had played before, dark, mournful, and filled with an almost tangible anguish. She played as if in a trance, oblivious to her surroundings. But as the last note echoed, a voice whispered from the shadows, "Beautiful, isn't it?" Lily's heart raced as she turned toward the source of the voice. A figure emerged from the darkness, a man with piercing eyes and a grin that held a touch of malevolence. He introduced himself as the maestro, the enigmatic spirit of the theatre's founder. He told Lily of the curse that had plagued the theatre for generations, a curse bound to a symphony that could only be played by the chosen musician. The maestro had chosen Lily, and the symphony had woven its way into her very soul. It was a symphony of pain, regret, and a desperate longing for release. Lily was torn. The power of the symphony was undeniable, its allure intoxicating. But she could feel the weight of the curse, the darkness that threatened to consume her. The maestro offered her a choice, to continue playing and bask in the glory the symphony brought, or to break free from its grip and face the consequences. Haunted by the knowledge of the curse's origin, Lily delved into the theatre's history. She discovered that the maestro had been a brilliant musician who had sacrificed everything for his talent. The symphony he had composed was a reflection of his anguish, a twisted masterpiece that ensnared the souls of those who played it. Determined to break the curse, Lily embarked on a dangerous journey. With the help of an old librarian, she unearthed a forgotten ritual that could sever the connection between her and the symphony. The ritual required a sacrifice, one that would test Lily's resolve and pit her against the maestro's malevolent influence. The night of the ritual arrived, and Lily stood alone on the theatre's stage. The air was thick with anticipation, and the shadows seemed to dance with a sinister energy. As she played the first few notes of the symphony, the maestro materialized before her, his eyes gleaming with a mix of fascination and fury. But Lily played not the symphony of sorrow, but a melody of defiance and strength. She poured every ounce of her will into the music, battling against the maestro's influence. The theatre trembled, and the air crackled with a chaotic energy as the symphony wavered between darkness and light. With a final resolute note, Lurley's bell struck the strings and the symphony shattered. The maestro let out a tortured scream as his form disintegrated, vanishing into the void. The curse was broken, and the theatre fell into an eerie silence. Lily emerged from the ordeal changed, her spirit marked by the battle she had fought. The Edgewood Theatre stood as a testament of her courage, its walls now free from the maestro's malevolent presence. The haunting melody had been silenced, but its echoes lingered in Lily's mind, a reminder of the darkness she had faced and conquered.